Do you have an XYL Unicorn? Are you interested in picking one up? Are you also interested in the metal upgrade kit that's available for it? Then you should know that there's something weird about this combination of kits that may cause your blaster to become inoperable.
Oh shit. Oh, the trigger, dude. Oh no. The trigger totally locked up. Come on. Wow, interesting. It's like totally not working. Dude.
In this video, I'll be covering some specifics about this blaster, the issues that I've been having with the trigger, a full install guide for the metal upgrade kit, and my final thoughts on what I think about the completed blaster. If you're new here, my name is Aldoss. I own a parkour CQB Nerf arena here in Rochester, New York. I stream our Friday night events to Twitch, and I post gameplay edits from it here on this channel. That is when I'm not making videos like this one, showing you and warning you of some issues that you might find when you purchase a blaster, and then showing you how to fix them. If you find anything in this video valuable, a like, sub, or comment really goes a long way, and I would really appreciate it. Let's get into it.
Hey, I'm not doing all that. I'm going to take a look at your seagull.
It's acting so stupid.
Also, I figured out the problem. I'm working on a fix for it.
You're a genius.
Charlie,
What?
take it.
No way. No way. Let's find out. What's the Chance do to fix the unicorn? Chance! What was wrong?
The slam fire on that is made with a piece that gets pushed forward by the ram.
Okay.
And it was just a hair not forward enough. So if you took the grip and you like really cranked it forward, it would get far enough forward to shoot. Otherwise it wouldn't.
Yeah.
So what I did was I found that piece that needs to be held forward, and I put a piece of tape on it to make it just a little bit less forward than it needs to be.
Huh.
So by that...
That's an old school fix.
That was all it needed. And
That's an old school fix.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
As you saw in the earlier clips, something with this combination of parts is causing the slam fire mechanism on the Unicorn, which looks like this, to somehow not get put in the correct place and is causing the sear to stop moving. This problem is ironically funny for the lot of you that watched my Worker Seagull battle tested review, which also gave me quite a lot of trigger issues.
Oh, it just happened. The trigger just happened. Oh my god, the trigger, dude. Oh, the stupid trigger. Oh, come on, don't do this, man.
It just seems like I am plagued by trigger issues.
I'm so triggered.
If you missed that review, you can click the box at the top to go check it out. The metal upgrade kit was an important consideration for me because the condition that I got this blaster in, honestly, just wasn't that great. The quality control wasn't there. The air seal on the bolt was horrendous. And if you were to prime the blaster and dry fire it with a plugged barrel, you would lose all of the air in the plunger tube in under a second. This unit I bought from Out of Darts for about $95. It is not a slotted plunger tube like many others that have gotten theirs in various places, locations in the world. However, I've spoken to a lot of different Nerfers that have their hands on one of these or own one of these, and there is a smattering of diverse reports on whether or not theirs is working correctly. So I think there's just an issue with the quality control, and it's just not as high as it could have been. The metal upgrade kit isn't necessarily cheap. It will put you in at a total higher cost than the Worker Seagull, which is a direct competitor to this blaster. But the parts themselves are very high quality, and I'm overall pleased with the kit. This unit I purchased from Out of Darts for about $40. Let's crack open the Unicorn. I'll show you how you can install the metal kit and what you need to do in order to fix the trigger issue. Let's go. The XYL Unicorn is one of the easiest blasters that I've ever had the pleasure of taking apart. I'll guide you through a full teardown here and finish by showing you what we'll do to solve the trigger last. First, we're going to separate the barrel from the blaster by removing the two takedown pins. If you've ever had a blaster that works like this, it's just absolutely amazing. The Unicorn literally broke on me during a game last week, and I was able to crack it open and apply a fix in between rounds in less than 2 minutes. Now that the blaster is in two halves, we're going to set this part aside, and we'll come back to it later when we fix the trigger issue. And for now, we're just going to talk about how to replace this bolt here. You'll need a screwdriver with a size 3 Allen wrench in order to start by taking these two screws out. These are the only two screws that are this size. Everything else is going to be a size 2. The handle will come off in parts. Go ahead and set those off to the side. We'll switch out the head, and we're going to focus the rest of our effort right here. In order to take the Picatinny out, there's 2 screws that are right here on the underside. We're going to go ahead and remove them, and then we'll set them aside. They're clearly longer than all the other screws, so they'll be easy to find later. The Picatinny rail just comes off like this. Go ahead and set it aside. The whole bolt assembly is held together by 4 screws, 2 that are located on each side. We'll start with the front and take these off first. This orange block is just a stopper for the entire barrel assembly. So we're going to go ahead and slide that off. We're going to keep this facing upward because underneath there's a little black square here. I don't know if you can see that. That's used as a nut for the screws that we took out for the Picatinny rail. So we're going to go ahead and turn that upside down just so that we can catch it and make sure that we don't lose it. Now that the stopper is gone, you're going to see the entire barrel starts to push itself out. We're going to free it with these 2 back screws now. Now that all 4 screws are gone, you'll just be able to slide the barrel right on out. These are the priming rods, and we're going to have to access the bolt with these 3 screws back here. So we're going to go ahead and take these out. These are a unique length from the other 2 sizes that we've had, but again, they're pretty easy to spot and there's not that many of them. So we'll just go ahead and put them off to the side. We're going to use them in just a moment. Once the screws are free, you'll see that the return spring on that barrel just wants to slide straight out. We're going to remove the bolt and we'll switch this out for the metal kit. This is what the bolt looks like. There's going to be 3 different sections for the priming rods to get screwed into. This is actually 2 parts that you'll screw together. There's an O-ring right here. O-ring at the front. I actually lost the second O-ring already. Be sure to keep those or keep extras on hand. And then we're going to go ahead and slide this into the barrel and connect it back to where the priming rods are supposed to go. Now that this is assembled, we can just go ahead and reverse the entire process and complete our barrel assembly again. When you're reattaching the front section, don't forget to install this little nut, and you'll want the closer end to go in first. Now that that's there, we're going to put in the stopper, and we'll screw that down. Once that's done, we'll grab our Picatinny rail. It connects with that little L traveling out to give it a little bit of length. Now that's complete, we're going to switch out for the size 3 again, and we'll connect our priming handle. At this point, you're done. There's one more piece of the puzzle here, though. If your plunger head hasn't fallen out yet, like mine does, then that's incredible. Maybe you have a much better air seal on your blaster. But mine right here, it's no good. I'm going to set this aside. I'm probably going to throw it in the trash, because it is trash. And we're going to switch it out for the metal unit. But before we do, we're just going to grab some lube real fast. We're going to spray some lube in there and pop that sucker in. If you're not having any trigger issues, you're done. You don't need to do anything else. You can go ahead and reattach this to the blaster with the 2 takedown pins, and you're all set. If you are having trigger issues, then what we're going to do is actually remove the slam fire feature from this blaster, and it's going to cause the blaster to fire way more reliably. Let's get into that. For this next part, we're going to take that trigger assembly again. We're going to have to remove the stock. We're going to set the spring aside as well. Now that we're here, we have pins that are holding everything together. This shell actually does not clamshell. It was definitely injection molded into pieces, but it has since been welded itself together. We don't actually need to remove this and take this apart. We just need to access this whole trigger assembly here in order to correct this lever right here, which is our slam fire lever. This is our sear back over this way. In order to gain access to this entire unit, we only have to take out this pin, and the trigger lock in order to get there. Let's go for it. We're going to start by taking out the trigger lock. This has 1 screw that connects it to the lock itself, and then underneath the trigger, there's actually this really tiny spring-loaded pin right here, and it kind of works like a detente. We're not going to lose that, or we don't want to lose that. It actually slots itself right here in the backside of the trigger like this. So we're going to keep that in there and try not to lose it. The trigger lock itself is just going to float in there for a moment. In order for us to easily remove this entire trigger assembly, we're going to flip the blaster upside down here, and we're just going to take out these 2 screws. Once that's done, this thing should just slide right out. There is the lock in here to allow the stock to go up and back. We're not going to mess with that at all. It's actually pretty solidly in there, so I'm just going to keep it as is. I'll put that aside. We got to take these pins out next, and for this, I'm actually going to lift the blaster up a little bit, and I'm going to use this rubber piece to help make it just a little bit more safe as I'm hammering down through the unit, so I'm not damaging the unit too much. In order to do this, you'll need to take something that is smaller than the diameter of this pin. I'm going to use a tiny little screw that I've got right here, and I've actually kind of worn down the tip a little bit in order to make it so that I can just easily hammer out these pins. Grab a hammer and let's go for it. Now that I've got the pins out, I'm just going to take these blocks, clear them away so that I've got some more space. I can flip the blaster upright, and you can just grab the entire assembly and just pull it up. The trigger lock can stay in there if you want it. We're going to put this off to the side. We don't need it. We're just going to talk about this assembly right here. This unit here is the sear. It's what moves up and down in order to allow the plunger head to release, move forward with the power of the spring, and fire the dart. This is our slam fire mechanism, and for whatever reason, something about this is causing the blaster to no longer be able to release the sear with the trigger. You can see that when I pull the trigger back, the sear releases. However, in the primed position with this metal kit installed, something is causing this unit back here to stay somewhat backward. And it's causing the trigger to no longer be able to push the sear upright. Let's see if I can like kind of mess this around a little bit. It's causing the sear to not move as much. You get about this much play in the trigger when it's actually installed in the blaster. And so this spring that's here that's pulling it back, something is messing up here, but this is easy enough to just remove. This is only held in with pressure from the shell. You don't have to do anything special to it besides just take it apart and keep track of the pins, whoa, that hold them in place here. The spring already came loose, so I'm going to go ahead and take this, and I'm just going to set it aside somewhere that I can remember it. This is my lever for the slam fire, and I'm just going to relieve some tension from the sear, and I'm just going to slide it straight up. Now that it's apart, this is my entire mechanism, the lever for the slam fire. I'm just going to set that aside. And now that we're here, we're technically done, except you can tell this part, this entire lever for the slam fire is an integral part of this mechanism. There's now this huge gap that's here, and you won't get enough play on the trigger when it's installed in the blaster to make the seal disengage. So we can put anything we want in between the trigger and the sear. I have some rubber that's right here, 1/4 inch, and I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife and I'm just going to cut it out. And here's the part that I cut out. So I'm going to take this, I'm just going to slide it in between the trigger and the sear. Play with it, make sure that it fits and it won't dislodge and somehow make the entire mechanism lock up and become inoperable on you. Once you're satisfied with it, go ahead and take the plate covering, thread it back on. Now that we have this part done, we have to install it back into the blaster. This trigger lock is just held into place with pressure from the trigger assembly. So we're going to take our shell again, and this notch that you see here has to be pointed backward on the blaster. So I'm going to take the flat part of the trigger lock, I'm going to place it at the bottom of the shell, and I'm just going to hold it sort of at an angle as I place the trigger assembly back into place. Now that we're here, we can put the spring rest back on, and then we can reinstall our trigger as well. Once again, make sure you didn't lose that little spring-loaded part from the trigger lock. Double check that your lock works. And then we have to reinstall the pins. Putting the pins back in is actually an easier part. I just like to hold it and tap it. At this point, we're done. You can see that there's no longer this slam fire mechanism there. The sear is still moving, the trigger still has play. I'm gonna go ahead and put the spring back on, and I'm gonna connect the two shells back together, and I'll use the takedown pins to secure them. This is our completed blaster. Let's give it a test fire and make sure it operates. So now that we upgraded the air seal with the metal upgrade kit, let's go ahead and do some test firing and see what kind of velocities we're getting out of it. I've got a Chrony set up here. We'll also play around with some accuracy as well. I've got a bell set up back over that way. Normal engagement distances in this arena are somewhere between 15 and 30 feet. So I have a range set up at about 25 feet with about a 5-inch bell back there, and we'll see if I can get any bell hits. As we talked about before, this is not a slotted plunger tube Unicorn. It was purchased from Out of Darts for about $95. The metal upgrade kit was about $40. This B car is a custom design from our game mod Chance. I'm sure if you ask him nicely, he'll still say no. I'm just kidding. He's a really nice guy. I'm sure if you ask him, he'll try to figure out how you can get access to this B car. Let's give it some test firing. 128.6, 84.6, 128.4, 123.5, 130.5, hit, 123.9, 121.6, 126.9, that was really close, 124.7, hit, 132.4, hit, 120.1, 124.7, 130.2, oh, 106.2, 86.3, 124.2. All in all, not too bad. Let's switch it out for the 1.7 spring and see what we get. 149.7, 147.2, 153.9, 145.7, 146.2, 143.8, 129.9, 93.9, 150.7, 127.6, 147.3, hit, 127.0, 143.1, 149.2, 119.5, 147.5, 127.2. The numbers definitely jumped a bit with 1.7 millimeter spring, but it was also feeling a little bit more erratic. Let's pop it up to the 1.8, see what we get. I think that was a hit. 125.9. 148.3, 138.9, 147.9, 117.6, 156.2, 141.8, 153.2, I think I hit the connector on that, 144 even, 154.1, 156.1, hit, 157, hit, 153.7, 156.3, 151.7, 156.1, 155.7. With a 1.8 millimeter spring, it was definitely getting a little bit more consistent. Obviously, we had some weird outliers in that batch, but it's firing within legal limits of our arena of 160 feet per second as our limit, and it also felt like the groupings were much tighter. Let's give the 2 millimeter spring a shot and just kind of see how ridiculous it is. 187.3, 175.8, 183.5, 190.2, 182.6. That was almost a hit. 166. Almost a hit. 153.6. Hit! 180.5. 182.7. 190.1. 190.6. 197.9. 160.1. Hit! 175.5, 190.5, 187, 209.9. So the 2 millimeter spring is pretty erratic. It definitely was all across the board. We had a pretty wide variance. It was also quite a pain to prime. The priming experience is significantly more challenging with the 2 millimeter spring, but obviously the power is there and you can get much closer to the 200 FPS limit if that's something that your community plays at. Something to think about when you're considering these different options. So that's the test fire of the XYL Unicorn. Hopefully that data was helpful for you at giving you the information you need to figure out what spring option you're going to need to purchase when you buy this blaster. Maybe the stock spring will work fine for you, but if you're looking to bring it to something with a higher FPS limit, for instance, our FPS limit is 160 feet per second, the 1.8 millimeter spring works perfectly for me. I find the priming experience to be okay and acceptable, and it gets me just underneath that 160 FPS limit, and it has really nice tight groupings. If you want a smoother priming experience, it's totally acceptable to have the 1.7 millimeter spring and sacrifice a little bit of power out of this blaster for that smooth prime. If you're looking to bring this to an ultra stock event or something closer to 200 feet per second, the 2 millimeter spring is a cool addition to the metal kit. It's nice that you don't have to source that elsewhere. It is a laughably challenging priming experience. I'm a relatively fit adult male, and I misprimed this during the test fire about 4 times. And I had to reload it and reset it in order to get that catch to engage and continue firing and operating this blaster. There are other better options for you if you're looking to bring this and compete with other blasters in a 200 plus FPS limit event. Keep that in mind when you're considering this and weighing it against other options. With that said though, I'm really pleased with this blaster. I think it fits really well in our arena. I love the 2 takedown pins and how easy it was for me to just seamlessly switch between the different spring options for this test fire. The whole thing only took me about 5 or 10 minutes in order to complete the entire thing. The metal kit install actually also was very simple and very easy to do in comparison to something like the Worker Seagull, which took hours. That was a very painful experience. This was so much more enjoyable. I think from start to finish, it took me about 30 minutes to shoot that part of the video. What an incredible design for a blaster. The whole barrel assembly was super easy, and the trigger assembly too. Super easy to do with just these little 2 pins that are here holding that in place. What a wonderfully designed blaster. I'm really pleased with this purchase. I think it fits really well for me, and I hope that you think the same. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you think that this was trash and you're gonna go, Worker Seagull. It's a wonderful blaster. Thanks so much for sticking through to the end. As always, I stream on Twitch from 5:30 p.m. Eastern time to 8 p.m. or so. I give away $5 Out of Darts gift cards to random viewers during those streams, and that can sometimes help chip away at the $40 price tag of this metal kit if it's something that you're looking to source yourself. And, maybe if Santa doesn't bring it for you this year, Santa, Aldoss, can help out just a little bit and make it a little bit more affordable for you. Thanks so much for being a part of this. I appreciate you all. If you got value out of this video, hit me with a like, drop a comment down below, subscribe to the channel. We can watch some gameplay videos together. If you were able to figure out how to keep this trigger more reliable while also having the utility of slam fire, help the homies out. Drop a comment. I'm going to look for it. I will pin it if somebody's figured out, so that other people that are watching this after the fact can go through and figure out what they need to do to have this be reliable while still having the slam fire utility. Thanks so much for watching this video. I appreciate you all. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.